And I call to order this regular meeting of the Village of Ashcroft Council for Tuesday, November the 12th, 2019. Move to adopt the agenda as presented. Motion, Councillor Davenport, second by Councillor Anstey. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Minutes. We have the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of Council from October 28th, 2019. Are there any errors or amendments? Or omissions, I'm sorry. No? Seeing none, I declare them adopted as presented. And we have minutes of the regular meeting of Council held Monday, October 28th, 2019. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I declare them adopted as presented. We have not so much a late delegation as a delegation where we had some crossed wires. So we have Mr. David Rhodes from Interior Roads here to give one of his semi-annual updates. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So first, please accept my apology for our little glitch in communications there. It was really great that Danielle was able to get me on the agenda, and I do appreciate that. I was most of the way down here and I thought I should phone because I usually get an email back. It's all good. So I did want to cover a couple of items. I see some new faces here, so I'll just kind of do a really quick summary. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, the ministry has put all of the service areas out for bid. Interior Roads, or Dawson Group, now our maintenance division is Dawson Road Maintenance, was successful with 4 service areas. So there's a couple other companies that have 4, but outside of that, there's 3 of us that have 4 or more service areas. And so with that contract renewal comes a couple of new things, and you won't notice so much in the summer maintenance. However, there are some new guidelines and some new standards for winter maintenance. And so I wanted to just briefly inform you of the overall part of it. You know, part of the process of this change, of course, internally has been our corporate growth. We've had significant management change, all the way up to the owner is still the owner, but we have a board of directors now, we have a chief operating officer, and levels have managed to oversee a company that has doubled in size in the last 6 months. It's a huge undertaking, and there's led to some ripples along the way, and I'm sure you can appreciate that that's bound to happen, right? But as we roll into winter, some of the things that you need to be aware of is in the new specifications, there's a requirement to do salt brining or some type of brining, whether it's beet juice or whatever contractor decides to choose to use, as a pre-application rolling into severe winter storms. So we are outfitting our yards with brine mixing. It's basically rock salt and water to be mixed together. It'll be contained, it'll have secondary containment larger than a potential spill, but the trucks will look like a water truck going down the road, and they'll spray a little line of brine and a foot apart across the surface area. And the idea of the brine is that it prevents compact snow from actually bonding to the surface. And it's effective, the brine itself is effective up to about minus 15 degrees Celsius. And so we'll be applying it probably out to about minus 10, something like that, maybe minus 12, prior to a storm. And then during the storm process, that will allow the crews to have a better handle on removing the snow. It doesn't build up as compact because it hasn't stuck there. So it's able to be removed a little bit easier with either a plow truck or with a grader. It doesn't have that surface adhesion to it. So that's the first major thing that we're going to be doing that's a change. There's also a requirement in the contract to provide better notification. And so to council and to various stakeholder groups and stuff like that of storm events and a variety of things like that, road closures and stuff. So part of our responsibility is to communicate better with stakeholders. So hopefully you will see some better communication from us in advance of things going on. I'm not sure yet who I should be sending emails to and stuff like that. I'm guessing maybe Daniela, but whoever's the best contact will logistically deal with those things outside of council. Additionally, we'll be pre-positioning equipment. So if we know that there's going to be a storm in Lillooet, we'll have a truck out towards our boundary at Ashcroft, is that Hat Creek corner. And so we'll have a truck out there prior to the storm actually happening. And so it's changed some logistical stuff there. The salt shed use has changed. Ministry is no longer allowing the maintenance contractors in most service areas to use their existing salt facilities. So we've had some issue trying to find an appropriate location to put up a salt shed here. Ultimately, we have an agreement with the Ashcroft Band, and so that First Nations group has graciously allowed us a lease on some land, and we'll be having a salt shed up there near the old racetrack and a gravel supply up there as well, winter sand. Now, rolling into winter sand itself, there is a change in the size of sand. And so it's dropped from a 12.5 millimeter standard to, on main roads like Highway 1, Highway 97, the main quarter A-class roads, and the B-class roads, which would be Highway 97C and Highway 99. The smaller standard for those roads is 9.5 millimeters, which is approximately 3/8 of an inch. So they have reduced that size in the hope of reducing windshield damage and those types of things. And it is a balance because the larger rock actually provides longer traction in any type of snow buildup or anything like that. So it's a little bit of a change, and hopefully it's better for everybody. Nobody likes broken windshields. I've certainly replaced my fair share in my own vehicles. We all have. So the other thing that we'll be doing is there's a requirement to begin salting when the surface temperature of the road is at -9 or warmer. Many of you have seen advertising on television or heard it on radios of barren black at -9, right? And so what that actually means, just so that you understand and don't get kind of lost in the midst of what that really means, if it's -9, the contractor has 24 hours or warmer, 24 hours to have that process in place. However, if it's -9 here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Ashcroft, Highland Valley's probably still above Barnes Lake Road at -11 or 12 on the highway, and you're not going to be salting up there because that will create a chemical ice that is very, very treacherous. Right? So that the old standard was -6, it's now -9. It's also a shortened time frame to have that done. So if it's in a warming trend where it's going to be -9 for a few days or warmer, then 24 hours to peel it off on the main roads, 36 on the secondary roads like 97C and 99. The other part of the main contract change is our requirement to have social media interaction. And so we have, we've always had, for 15 years, we've had a website which people can go onto our website and communicate with us that way, put in a PCR, we call them, public communication request. But now we have a couple social media outlets. One is Facebook and one is Twitter. And so those are monitored. Now, just as a general guideline, we use those for putting information out to the public about road conditions. I'm responsible for those formats. And so anything like weather reports, like a storm coming in, road closures and stuff like that, I'll post them on social media. Now, just so that you all understand and don't jump onto the social media bandwagon, still the best thing to do is the website or the phone call, because the social media is manned by me. Just like everybody, I have time away from social media, and it doesn't get an instant response. And it would be a sad day that somebody should input into social media and hope for a response to a condition and didn't get it. So we're still encouraging people to use the website, that website process, you understand that. If you input through the website, that's an email that's sent to the road supervisor here, that person's superintendent in Clinton. It also goes to me as the quality manager and to our operations manager, and also goes to the senior management team responsible for Dawson Road maintenance. Every one of them gets those emails. So we know if somebody's communicated, and we know if there's been a response. When the foreman responds back, he's supposed to input in and so on. So it's an improved tracking system that we have there. That's about the main parts. Is there any questions that I might be able to answer before I make my leave?
Any questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. I always find them very interesting. Just a clarification on the PCR, is that the 24-hour service that people are supposed to contact if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you encounter a road condition?
Right, so we have that 1-800 number, it's 1-800-842-4122. But we also have a website, dawsonroadmaintenance.ca. And within that website, you can click on a button that says contact, and there's a bunch of drop-down menus. You can select your area, you can select the road that you're talking about, you can put in your name, you can submit a picture if you want to. Put in your phone number if you'd like somebody to call you back, or an email address if you'd like an email back. And so that system there is the one that goes out to everybody. When you call the 1-800 service, that's our communications room, they will first of all try and pass the message along directly to the road crew out in the field by radio. And if there's no immediate response, then they will enter it into that system. So certainly if it's an emergency, the 1-800 number is going to be answered by a person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You may sit on hold for a moment, but there will be a person that actually answers that number.
Thank you. And are there any plans to build any brining tanks in this area?
So we have brining tanks ordered. I believe that the plan is to have one in Ashcroft or Clinton. I'm not sure which one it will be yet. Obviously there's some logistics. We don't necessarily want to have it sitting in the Ashcroft yard. It's a very tiny little yard. So then it's a matter of can we get water up at the site where we have the salt. It's not a particularly large thing. It mixes about 30,000 liters per hour, and it takes less room than council chambers here. For a couple of tanks is all it is, and containment for them. So it's pretty unsophisticated, but effective.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Question?
Councilor Woodward?
No, you would be in charge of clearing snow on the bridge, which is the Highway 97, is that correct?
The bridge on Highway 97. Okay, so yes.
There just seemed feedback from citizens of Ashcroft, which are that I think there's been in the past some frustration about that sidewalk not being cleared.
Yes,
so
side
just-
97C you're referring to.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
so just
yes.
some awareness of
Okay.
some feedback in past years, and it's
Yes.
really important for that area to be cleared so citizens can go back and forth, and also that intersection there,
Yes.
so.
And so we have to follow a process of maintenance, right? We can't shovel the sidewalk while we're plowing the road. We have to plow the roads, and then there's a time in there before we do the sidewalk. And that response time for that particular bridge, I believe, is 36 hours. I would have to check it out specifically, but that's after the snowfall ends and the road's cleared to the fog line, then 36 hours to have the sidewalk done. Now, I know from having lived here and being the foreman here for over 9 years that people walk at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's still snowing, and they're out walking across the sidewalk. And unfortunately, there's just not the ability on our part to monitor that sidewalk in that state. The trucks need to be out on the highway. There's vehicles doing crazy things out there, so that's the process.
Great, thank you. Just one moment, sir. During a delegation, because we very rarely have delegations, we usually do this at committee of the whole meetings. Are members, people in the gallery allowed to ask a question of a delegation?
It's unusual, but it would be the will of the council, your worship.
Okay. Everyone, okay? Sir?
With the new brining system that you're talking about and water, with our new water treatment plant, will it help with brining? With brining more? Like you're saying the lack of water is part of brining the roads?
No, it doesn't take very much brine to make the process. 30,000 liters of brine
Yeah.
will do, in a normal application, that will do 200 plus kilometers of road.
So our new water system will help with the brining?
For sure it will
Okay,
you know, the better water system will.
yeah,
Our concern with brining really is the logistics of having it in the Ashcroft yard.
okay,
You know, you take something this size and you drop it
Yeah.
into that little yard, and now you can't even turn trucks around it. That's the biggest
Okay.
logistical challenge we have.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you
Good.
again, always very interesting,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much. We'll see you in the spring, and if any, Daniel has my card, so
Thank you.
if you need to get hold of me, please do.
Would I be able to get a card as well?
Certainly, I could, I'm not sure, am I allowed to just bring it up there, or what is the process? Well, yeah, you know,
Approach the bench.
this seems awful,
Thank you.
kind of testy territory here.
We don't bite.
I know.
Hard. Thank you very much.
You have one? Good. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and
Good.
safe travels to Camp
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to correspondence. Item 5.1, Ashcroft and District Lions Club have sent us a letter in support of the Evans Road pathway. What is council's pleasure on this item? Councillor Anderson.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Toohey, thank you. Any discussion on this? No discussion? Seeing none. On the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 5.2, information correspondence listing to November 8th, 2019. What is council's pleasure? Councillor Davenport.
Move that we receive and file.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson, thank you very much. Any discussion on any of the items contained in the information correspondence listing? No? Seeing none, on the question then, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We have no unfinished business. We move directly to new business. Item 7.1, we have the first of two development variance permit applications, specifically number 1903. I would move that we approve the application as presented. A notice will be placed on title advising future purchases that the structure was approved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion on this?
Seemed to make sense.
Well, I mean, obviously both applications have consulted heavily with the neighbors. The neighbors all seem in favor. I think they've done due diligence. I understand that nothing else has been received opposing it, so. If you could just hold this until the public question session,
Okay.
the answer? Thank you. So, any discussion on the question then? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Move on to item 7.2, the remarkably similar development variance permit application number 1904. What is council's pleasure? Councillor Toohey.
I move that we accept the variance permit and allow this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anstead, second. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? No? On the question, then all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 7.3, we have the letters in support and against the DVP applications. Do we need to receive these for information? No?
They form, they form a part of the application, so.
We have no bylaws under consideration, so we move on to the staff report. UBCM Fire Department Training Grant application on page 22. We have a recommendation.
Are you guys?
Councillor Davenport.
I move that council approve a UBCM grant application from the Village of Ashcroft for the fire department training purposes in the amount of $25,000, and that staff support training activities and provide grant management.
Thank you. Do I have a
Thank you,
seconder?
council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Anderson seconds. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on this? No, I was able to see some of the training exercise that was carried out with the, I understand they don't like to call it the jaws of life, the extraction equipment. I understand that a lot of the newer members of the department found it very helpful. And it's great to see that we'll be able to do more of that sort of training. Any discussion? No? On the question, then all those in favor, opposed, carried. We have item number 9.2. Museum end of season report. Move that we receive and file.
Second that.
Councillor Tui, thank you very much. Any discussion on this? No, good to see the numbers going up.
Yeah.
Excellent summer. I know from being right beside the museum building that there is steady traffic in there. Very much appreciated looking at the comments that people leave behind in the book. People just love the museum. And the fun days are certainly a wonderful addition. When the students came over to the journal, they were keen, they had great questions, they were really interested. It's a great variety of topics. And with the things like the Mexico and the Bifka Sister City, it goes well beyond just Ashcroft, and so it's great. And it was fun to see them all trailing out of the museum to go paint in the park and do their drawings and stuff, and then all come trailing back 90 minutes later, so. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Ms. Roden. It looks like too that 2019's been a record year. So that's awesome, and it's surprising to me how after the wildfires in 2017, that in 2018, we jumped right back up there again to approximately 2014 and 2013 numbers, so that's great. That's a surprise as well.
I think the 2017 was on track to be a record tourism season at the museum because Canada was the world tour. They had been chosen as the country to visit in 2017, and so a lot of people were really expecting that we would break a lot of records that year, and of course
We did.
did not. We did and we didn't. So, all right. So on the question, then, all those in favor, opposed, carried. 9.3 Santa Parade and Christmas event. And we have a recommendation, Councillor Anstett.
I think we should move forward with that recommendation and approve the closure of Railway Avenue on December the 6th from 5 to 6:30 for the annual Santa Parade. And commit to sponsoring and decorating a float for the Santa Parade. And further to that, Council approved the Ashcroft bucks expenditure to be compensated by the NDIT Love Program funding for the plaid shopping event. Approved value of prizes: first prize $200, second prize $100, and third prize $50.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson, thank you. Any discussion on this? Councillor Tui?
I know myself, I'm already doing a float because I own a business, so I won't be able to be two places at one time, or 3 or 4, yeah.
The cloning technology just isn't coming along.
No, not fast enough.
Hologram.
I'm sure we can come up with something. I think there might be a staff member who's very keen and has a lot of creative ideas. So, so I think we're in safe hands. And the village has not traditionally entered a float, so I think it would be fun to do it and see how it goes. And if anyone's going to ride on the float, then those little pocket warmers, hand warmer things, I understand are very, very good. So, all right, any discussion? Councillor Tui?
Thank you. I'm wondering, Mayor Roden, if that staff has an idea on how to light things up without a generator.
We do have a generator at the Public Works yard, I believe.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, you know, oh, okay.
I'm just looking for ideas.
Glow sticks.
Oh, that's a good idea. And also I'll add to that years ago, the village did have a beautiful float that we used to enter in all of the parades, you know, with all the dangly stuff. Yeah, way back when.
Well, I understand we have a flat deck that we can use,
Yeah.
so we'll see if we can come up with something. Any further discussion on the question? Then all those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 9.4, NDIT grant writer funding application, page 28. Councillor Anderson.
So I will put forward a motion for the staff recommendation that staff be authorized to submit a grant writing support program application to NDIT for 2020, and further that the application be submitted prior to December 31st, 2019.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tui. Any discussion on this? Councillor Anderson?
Well, I think that it's been a really valuable program, and it'd be a shame to not see that move forward again for 2020. It was a calendar year this
Yes.
past year. So I'm very happy to see this work at the end.
Well, the present position goes until December 31st of this year, and my math is a bit sketchy, but it looks like 3/4 of the total amount requested was granted, so I think that's quite a good success rate. Councillor Dev?
Just a question, is there any stats about what kind of grant writing has taken place with this program at all?
Not yet, but I believe a condition of it is that there's a report by the end of the year, or at the end of the year when it's wrapped up for the first year.
Okay.
So we will be getting a more detailed look at what has gone into this.
Right. Great.
Any further discussion? CFO Bella?
I don't recall the numbers, but we exceeded the amounts already.
Okay.
We as in the moderator.
Great. Any further comments?
I'd be curious. Thank you. I'd be curious if there's any grants that did not go forward.
It's in the report.
It is, yeah.
All right, on the question, then all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Council reports, there is a TNRD press release about a water meter installation in Savinaw meeting that, according to Area Director Renee Elliott, went quite well, very well attended. The Savinaw, the senior center was bursting. They had so many people there. Most people seemed to be on board with the idea of a water meter installation, so I think it was a very informative meeting. TNRD staff were on hand to answer questions. There was a TNRD board meeting and a committee of the whole meeting last week. Nothing really out of the board meeting. Committee of the whole meeting, there was a very interesting presentation about agriculture in our region. And one of the fun stats I learned was that on the salsa weekend at Desert Hills, when they sell all the salsa makings, they sell 50,000 pounds of tomatoes in that weekend. And that because of the contract they have with Loblaws, if someone in Thunder Bay, Ontario during the summer months is eating a cantaloupe and they bought it at Loblaws in Thunder Bay, they are eating a Desert Hills cantaloupe. So I think that is a wonderful little factoid of knowledge. Councillor Davenport?
Is there any update on the Eco Depot from the TNRD meetings that you've gone to at all? Or?
There has been nothing, but discussing with staff, they have started doing some engineering reports. And I believe the time frame for constructing it, once they actually get the site lined up and get everything in place, is 3 to 5 months. So if all goes well, we could have an Eco Depot next year. Are there any other council reports? Councillor Anderson?
Just one. I attended the off-leash dog park meeting just recently, not last week on November 7th. There were some discussions. Councillor Tui also attended. And just around what the next steps would be, so maybe getting resurrected.
Okay.
At this point, it's not fully decided.
Great, thank you. And are there any staff reports?
Your worship, our report, the staff reports were in the previous section, under staff reports.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm still getting used to this new agenda format, so. I opened it up when I first looked at it, I'm like, wow, this is different.
It's all good.
Change. Yes, we've discussed the change things before. Resolutions released from closed meetings, there are none, and we now move to question period. And it's questions from the press as well, so it's for everyone.
Thank you.
And do we have questions? Go ahead.
I'll try to keep them as clear as I can because I just got really messy, but most of them are just points of information and clarification. 3.1, the committee of the whole meeting. Is there any follow-up? There's nothing in this meeting, so I'm going to wonder if there's any follow-up of each of the actions, the age-friendly town, the ranch land mosaic, or the portable digital sign. Is there any follow-up to any of those?
There has been no follow-up as of yet.
Okay, so will council be following up, like on, is it the next agenda? When does that follow up?
These will be followed, they will make their way onto an agenda. It's just that in some cases there might need to be more research done, or we're waiting for further information, so they will be dealt with by council at a future date.
3.2, which is the minutes of the regular meeting. The 6.2 pathways, the recommendation to have council look into making a trails plan. Does that include sidewalks, pathways, bike trails, all those kind of things?
I have not been involved in a trail master plan development myself to this point. I plan to speak with Mayor Swan and Clinton to find out, because they have gone through that up there, to find out what that entails. So I don't know exactly what it would entail, but I assume that they would look at, whoever carried out the study would look at all sorts of different options in different areas of the community.
So it should include all those kind of things?
I would presume that it would look at a variety of different factors depending on the location of where a proposed trail or pathway, what would be feasible in that area, what would not be feasible. But as I said, I want to talk to Mayor Swan to find out what happened, what the Clinton process looked like.
Okay, and there will be public input to that?
Again, not having been through the process, but looking at, if I recall from following what Clinton done, there was public access, public input. I believe they did something on their website, a survey that could be carried out, and I think they had at least one public meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. And again, 3.2 minutes of the regular meeting. The 11.2 section river intake upgrades and backup generator. I think, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think that was the excess of $800,000 that was going to be put towards that. And so I'm wondering, according to the procurement policy, there needs to be a full RTF process. And I'm just wondering, with guidance from the engineering firm, and which I assume you already received that report that they wanted. So I'm just wondering, will there be a full RTP process for those two projects?
RFP, request for proposal?
Request for, pardon me, RFP, request for proposal, yes.
Right, it's early days right now, but I'm assuming that any project of this size, because they both would be very sizable projects, and both have been earmarked for some time by village crew staff as desirable to have. So I would suspect that, CFO Bella is going to step in and save me from myself.
No, you were saying everything was fine. The engineer of record will look at the planning side of things, the design side of things. And then like we did, which worked really effectively in our last project, and this is what I would like to see, but we'll work through the details. We went through a value for money first in pre-qualified bidders, and then afterwards we did, then we went and got quotes actually on the, so that really helped organize the current project, and hugely helped us because so hopefully we can follow the same process. There's a time crunch on it because we have to do it by the freshet, and we have to time it before the freshet. So there are some constraints time wise, and we are asking a lot out of our current engineers to design and get this going really quickly. So that we can take advantage of these funds and not let them go. So of course the process itself, there will be a number of bids.
Thank you.
Okay, and just with regards to the procurement policy itself, is there a place on the website where it is located? Because I went through the agenda in order to find it in past agendas, and I'm just wondering, I could not find it on the website. The policy section on the website just said for further development, so I think that would be an important policy to have on the website, and I'm just wondering if that could be uploaded so that it's quickly able to be looked at.
Thank you.
And same with the same minutes of the regular meeting, section 14, the question period. When I asked a question about the memorial bench, I'm just wondering, does Ashcroft have a memorial program with benches and so forth? There must be, but it's not on the website, or at least I do not know how to find it on the website. And if you could, somebody could direct me as to where that would be, where the memorial bench or memorial plaque or memorial whatever, any kind of cemetery things for estate planning and things where that would be found on the website, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Section 5.2, regarding your information correspondence to receive and file. I'm just wondering about the listing for vision, mission, values. I think that was something to do with the hospital. Vision, mission, values, refresh, process launched by Interior Health, invitation to add your voice and tell what you see is as most important from the perspective of your council and community. Is that a website? Is that a survey? Can you give me any information as to what that correspondence was about?
This is something that Interior Health has just recently started working on. It's just, as it says here, refreshing their vision, mission, and values. So I believe this is going to be an ongoing process over the next little while, because something like this doesn't happen very quickly with something as big as Interior Health. And they will be seeking input from various stakeholders about what they see as the vision, the mission, and the values of Interior Health.
And do you know how they will be seeking that input?
I haven't had that information yet.
Okay. Will that letter be available to see if they say that in the letter? Is that available for the public to look at?
The information correspondence listing, CEO Yansu?
If any member of the public wishes to come into the village office and have a look at that, we can make that available.
And I would suspect that something is also on the Interior Health website.
Thank you. 7.1. 7.1 regarding the variances. I'm just wondering, there usually is a public meeting for zone changes. There is no need for a public meeting for variances, is that correct?
CEO Yansu, would you be able to
My
answer?
apologies. Could we have a repeat of that question?
Usually, I know with rezoning and things like that, there's always, and variances for rezoning, there's always some kind of public meeting required, even though nobody may attend it, there's still a public meeting requirement for that. So I'm just wondering, is there no requirement for this kind of variance?
Which kind of?
The development
The
area.
Oh,
variance.
No, DVPs do not have a public consultation requirement.
Thank you. 9.3, the Santa float that you approved of. Just a question further to one that Councillor indicated. Is there going to be staff time committed to this, or will it be delegated staff time, or is it going to be just volunteer staff time?
We have not even had a chance to discuss this yet, so it could well be that for various reasons we don't have a float. It might not work out. I believe it's the will of council and staff that we have something, but what exactly that something will be remains to be seen. It could be me and my Ford Escape with a Village of Ashcroft logo and some tinsel on it, but we don't know.
It's a start.
It's a start. It was start small.
Section 9.4, the summary report for access, the list of grants that was referred to as well. Will that be available to the public? Will that be put online, the summary report for the grant writer, the list of grants, what they applied for and how much money they got for each of them? Will that report be online?
I cannot answer that question right now because this is the first time we've dealt with it. So it's a new program, so this will be the first time that we've seen it. So I can get back to you on that one.
And 10.1, what is 10.1? Oh, the water meters installation Savino. Do you know if the TNRD got a grant? They did say that all meters and installations were going to be free of charge for all 11 of the water systems that they have in place in the TNRD. And I'm just wondering, did the TNRD get a grant in order to subsidize that? Or will that money that it would cost to put in those meters and the installation be amortized in the taxes of TNRD residents?
I can't answer that without going back and looking at the minutes of the TNRD meeting, but I can do that and get back to you on that one as well.
Thank you. And the last thing is just a point of information regarding a couple of items. The community forum, November 14th, from 3 to 7, I noticed it wasn't mentioned in here. I'm just interested in knowing what the format is, because it's a meeting from 3 to 7:30. Is it more stations and that kind of thing? Is it? And if a person can't be present, it does mention something about we really want your feedback, so I'm just wondering, how's that feedback going to be requested? Is there other ways of than just going down there?
Well, first of all, we have decided to do a different format this time. Usually, as you know, we have them in the evening. There are 4 or 5 topics that council, together with staff, have talked about, and they're matters of interest or they're emergent issues in the village. We would maybe get someone from the TNRD, CN Police, whoever to come in and address it, and there would be questions from the public. So we've decided to do something a little bit different with this one. We're going to have staff and council on hand. There are going to be no formal presentations, so if you don't get there at 5, you don't miss the talk from the TNRD about X. Instead, it's going to be drop-in at your leisure. We scheduled it from 3 to 7:30 in the hopes that we could reach as many people as possible. People who work can come later, people who have young children can maybe come earlier, and people can come in. There will be some storyboards and information available, and they will be able to ask questions about what interests them, or about questions that they have a particular interest in. They'll be able to ask staff, council, and if we can't answer there, we will get back to you with the information. So we're going to have pens and paper. So actually, just before I came in here, we've had some information about it. Is there going to be a survey available, Nancy?
Your worship, yes, there will be at least one survey for the public to fill out. What is in front of council is a draft version of the handout that will be available at the community forum. It's not quite ready. I need to add some images to it yet, but we should be able to have a handout so people can go home with information that they can digest there later.
And the handouts could be made available through the village office, so that if people can't make it to the meeting, they will at least have an idea of what was discussed. And so if people want to come in after the meeting, if they couldn't make it, they are certainly free to take one of the handouts, and then if they have any further questions, approach myself, approach staff, whoever the person is they think could answer it, because we're always happy to answer questions from members of the public.
And will this be, because it involves the public, is this going to be filmed or not? Or
that would be completely up to the Hub Online Network.
I guess it will be. At least a portion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And any questions from the press?
She asked my question.
Oh. All right, thank you very much. Well, may I have a motion to take this meeting into a closed section? In camera, I should say. Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Anstead. Thank you very much.